Okay, welcome back for our second hour today. We have a second panel of witnesses. We have Roman Waschuk from the Business Ombudsman in Ukraine by video conference. We have Mr. Petichny from the Canada-Ukraine Chamber of Commerce. And we have Mr. I'm going to try this, Shishin from the Ukrainian Canadian Congress. I hope I did okay on those. Wonderful. So we are going to start with Mr. Waschuk. Everyone's going to have a 5-minute opening statement. We'll have Mr. Waschuk, Mr. Petichny, and Mr. Shishin in that order. So, Mr. Waschuk, please go ahead for up to 5 minutes.
Merci.
Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, members of Parliament, I'll make my presentation in English, but I'd be more than happy to answer questions in either official language.
Ambassador of Canada, I was present at the wrap-up of negotiations under the Harper government, the signing of the original CUFTA in 2016 under the Trudeau government, so indeed a cross-party affair at the time, as well as being involved in the rollout and implementation of the agreement in 2017 to 19. And if we look back to 2017 and up until this year at the general trade balance trend lines, we can see Canadian exports first plateauing at a significant surplus versus Ukraine, then dipping and then rebounding by 2021, which is essentially the last full year before full-scale war. Ukrainian exports, which of course we count as Canadian imports, grew steadily, and that was in fact the policy intention, which was to support Ukraine, and that was backed by a trade development project implemented by the Canada-Ukraine Chamber of Commerce and the Conference Board of Canada. So by 2021, as I said, the last full year before full-scale war, trade had settled at an equilibrium of just under 250 million being shipped each way, and that's in terms of goods, with a total turnover nearing $500 million. Ukrainian exports to Canada held steady last year, despite the onset of full-scale war, but have faltered this year, especially as two key contributors, the steel industry and agriculture, have been literally hard hit by bombing, as well as the logistics constraints caused by Russia's Black Sea blockade. Canadian exports have risen sharply this year. If you look at the year-to-date data, in the much appreciated, on the Ukrainian side, form of tanks, guns, and ammunition, as well as UAV components. In fact, if you look at the statistics, 2/3 of this year's record-breaking amount of Canadian exports are, in fact, weapons systems. But things have also started changing in other areas. There's a strategic two-way trade starting in the nuclear power sector. Just in the past couple of months, Ukraine is shipping uranium ore for processing because Ukraine has its own uranium mines for processing by Cameco in Canada, which will in turn provide fuel-grade uranium to Canadian-owned Westinghouse for the manufacture of fuel rods that will go into Ukraine's operational nuclear power plants. This cuts Russia out of the picture and ensures value added for both Canada and Ukraine. And that, I think, answers one of the questions by one of the honorable members in the previous session. Are there ways in which Canada and Ukraine and the trade side can work together to increase Ukraine's energy independence? And this is certainly one. CUFTA modernization is also important in that it is expanding coverage to trade in services and modernizing investment protection. Trade in IT services, especially software development, has been a major part of the Canada-Ukraine economic relationship, with Canada in or near the top 10 of Ukraine's international IT export markets. And this has overall been a win-win situation for Canadian companies, with giving them access to high-level mathematical engineering skills to generate their own product. And it has resulted in, of course, product benefits to Canadians as well. So if you're using Grammarly, for example, to improve your writing output, you're relying on Ukrainian tech. Ukrainian IT companies are also now creating jobs in Canada, not only in software. Ajax Systems, Ukraine's European leader in home and business security systems, has teamed up with Inaxis Systems of Montreal, which is the biggest Canadian independent player in the security space, to provide home and company monitoring solutions across Canada. Canadian investment, now also to be better protected under the agreement in Ukraine, is modest, but it's prominent in some market segments. Fairfax Financial, known to you no doubt, is the undisputed leader in the Ukrainian insurance market, owning 3 of the top 10 companies, also expanding its presence in the agri-food sector. And perhaps counterintuitively, both of these business units are continuing to grow, because as Ukrainians moving to and from shelter in countries abroad need auto and health insurance, ensuring that market grows, and people home and abroad still need to be fed. My current day job as business ombudsman for Ukraine is monitoring and ensuring the implementation of Ukrainian legislative safeguards for business, handling complaints from individual businesses, and making systemic recommendations for improvements. And that's supported by the European Bank for Reconstruction and Development and a consortium of Western countries.